It's going to be in the Tesla. It's even going to be in, you know, our fiber.
Wow.
And the fiber is now in the even Bugatti Veyron. It's crazy. You know?
Your hemp fiber is in the Bugatti Veyron?
That insulation, we had an insulation factory in Germany. The insulation is amazing.
That's cool.
The foods are, you know, and that is exactly what Jack and me and other people stood for.
Oh, it's still dripping down on the fucking table. It's crazy.
Still working, getting my shit together and stuff.
Are we ready? Finally, I can welcome everybody to a new episode of the TheHighCloud podcast. My name is Uncle Kūsh, and we're still at Mary Jane Berlin with this time two very special guests. We just keep going over the top with new fucking legends at the table here today in the Jack Herrick trailer. I want to welcome Sherbinski and Champelli. Thank you guys for making some time to come out.
Thanks for having us, man.
And smoke with me for a little bit and talk about cannabis all over the world. And we were talking already a little bit about your guys' friendship and your guys' stories that kind of align over the past few years. And obviously, I want the people to hear from you guys, like how did you guys start out in the cannabis industry back home and work your way towards the international recognition that you guys have now, you know? Also, just like Cutter from the last episode, now with the collaboration with Sēnsi Seeds, you know, there's a lot that's been happening over the past few years. But where did it all start for you guys? Maybe if you want to start, Sherb.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, what comes to mind for me is I think it all started in, like, really going back to high school, where there was a decision that got made where it's like, all right, and at that time in the early 90s, it was like if you were smoking weed and you were about the plant, you were a villain, you were a criminal, you were a loser, there were so many different things that you had to navigate, and just sort of like deciding like, wow, like I don't know what it is, but I fuck with this plant, and it makes me feel better. And so I think starting from there, and then really that leading, you know, I grew up in Sacramento in high school, and leading to going to the Bay Area early in my, you know, late teens, early 20s, you know, to be in the big city. And you know, just a few years later, I happened to be just right in the thick of the Prop 215, you know, medical marijuana movement, and I was just really at the right place at the right time. That's how I always felt. It was like full synchronicity. Got an opportunity from the very beginning to well, not the beginning, but at that time, the political framework was in place for guys like me to have a lawyer and create the collective model, which was, it worked. You know, everybody could work together, you know, to as a business. It was a nonprofit, but you know, and at that time
so
in the Bay Area,
go out with a few friends and say, oh, listen, we're going to grow this weed and do it for the
and
patients.
we had patients that are our friends or that we get from the dispensaries, and there was like a handful of dispensaries, 10.
Yeah.
Think about it, like where we're at this time when we were in the Bay, it was the ground. It was just the first bricks being laid in this global market of like actually regulating, where there was a handful of dispensaries you could go to, and you could, you know, where you go to these dispensaries and who are you vibing with, and there was no testing, and it was just a different time, but it was awesome. This actually reminds me a lot of those times, and times 50, because at that time it was a real small community. That's how we all knew each other. Like if you were kind of, I was gonna let Pelly talk, but that's how it was sort of when you went to these events, or you went to the dispensaries, or if you grew weed, and we didn't all just want to have our own weed. Like if he had good weed, or if someone else was a good grower, we'd be like, hey man, like we were definitely exchanging head smoke, and we knew who everyone was, and we showed mad respect. And if you put in the work and the passion, like there was a camaraderie that we still have, and so we love each other for that. We hold each other up. This game isn't easy, and so, you know, especially now, I think a lot of us from the U.S., we locked arms and turned still competitive with each other always, but really, you know, embracing that and you know, supporting each other, you know, as we expand our business globally.
How was it for you starting out in the cannabis industry? Was your story similar to Sherb's, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. You know, it's you know, starting out, it wasn't so much of an industry yet. It was more of like an underground kind of culture of, you know, just, you know, black market essentially at that point. And the commercial aspect really hadn't come into it yet, or the real, you know, monetization and on the a little bit above boards or gray area. It was all still very kind of, you know, behind closed doors. People were still very, you know, persecuted, and so even when Sherb was starting, it wasn't still cool. You know what I mean? It was still problems with the law, and you still had to be very super careful. You know what I mean? But going further back, it was even worse. You know, the further you go back and stuff. So for me, it was like early start was like, I mean, I started, you know, experimenting with cannabis in elementary school. I rolled up my first joint with, like, you know, in 5th grade with some binder paper, some leaf that my brother had grown in my mom's pantry, you know. And then later on in middle school, you know, in high school is when I kind of middle school is when I kind of grew my first plants in the same little pantry. Once he kind of moved out and this and that, I did some plants in there. So, you know, I started like, you know, cultivating like super early on. Some of my first grow was like in the late 1980s, you know, so it goes like pretty far back. So like 88, 89, I was growing my first plants. And then
a lot has changed since back
then, I mean, a lot has changed, you know. And I kind of was at one point, I was like taking the plants down from this pantry that was like lit and off of our kitchen there, and it was like basically a greenhouse, and I was taking the plants down into the basement and light depping it, you know. So every day at 6 o'clock I would bring the plants down and then bring them back up the next morning in order to get flower sooner. And this is like in the, you know, the late 80s that I was kind of like, you know, not pioneering because it was a technique that existed before that, but for the cannabis space, I was pretty early on to be doing some light dep. Light dep stuff didn't really start until the mid 2000s. You know, people were like really light depping like that. But then, you know, so I was like naming strains and, you know, selling. You know, it was like high-end weed even back then. Like an ounce was going for $400 of this stuff that I was growing out of my mom's, you know, house. Yeah, 400 back then, 65 an eighth. You know, some you know, and I mean, bro. Serious prices for back then. And I mean, of course, there was tons of weed for, you know, $100 a pound. Like there was really cheap. There was levels to the, you know, the levels even back then to you know, to this stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to watch it develop, you know, watch, you know, the culture develop, you know, and it's always been, you know, tied very closely, cannabis obviously, to music, to, you know, to fashion, to skateboarding, to all these different, you know, graffiti. Is like cannabis is like the glue that kind of holds us all together and brings everybody together. So it's kind of existed since, you know, obviously
hip-hop
forever. Yeah, going back to even jazz or whatever. So it's this culture that's always existed.
It links to certain subcultures.
Links, you know, and everybody's had their hands, I believe, in the culture and like building it up and having, you know, and a lot of people, you know, a lot of greats and a lot of people that, you know, maybe didn't make it out alive or got stuck in jail or just untold stories before social media, before all this stuff. Like we're all kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, you know, in a sense. And, you know, for me, like I look up to like all these my brothers were like, a couple of my brothers were like, you know, old school smugglers. My one brother, he had a coffee shop in Amsterdam in the late 70s.
Really?
Yeah, and then my other brother,
the name?
Yeah, it was called what was it called here? It'll come to me, but it's named after like the Branderai. It was called the Branderai, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was called the Branderai, and this is in the late 70s in Amsterdam. So as a kid, when I went to go visit my brother in his apartment, it was like the smell of hash, the sound of Bob Marley, and just giant like basically bales or, you know, big bricks of 10-kilo bricks of black Lebanese hash in the closet. When I opened up the closet, like stacked to the top. Dope. And this is like hash that was like they'd brought 400 kilos from Lebanon, I guess, in like a VW bus, like all the way from Lebanon.
They did it back then,
which is crazy, right? You know, so like
amazing.
I had like the family ties. My dad used to grow like plants on his balcony. He was an artist, so I was kind of around it. Like it was kind of a family thing. And then my other brother in the early 80s, he went to jail in Morocco for 3 years for like smuggling hash also. So as a kid, when I was in Spain visiting my father, because I go back and forth, I remember my dad, when that happened, like going to Morocco to like visit my brother in jail, and how much of like it was an ordeal, you know, like a big deal. Like my brother just disappeared, and it was like, gosh, and my dad had to tell me the story of how my brother basically got locked up in jail in Morocco.
Fucking Africa, bro.
And, you know, yeah, in Morocco back then, like, you know, it's like, even now, I'm sure a Moroccan jail is not a pleasant thing. You
Absolutely,
know?
bro.
So, you know, so I've always kind of like been, you know, adjacent to the culture and got involved at a young age, you know, and then from there, those were like my early beginnings, and then it evolved from there, you know, to what it's become. You know?
Yeah, and at one point you started, both of you, you started like building your own brand out of like what you were doing. Like, how did that grow for you? How did that Sherbinski came to life? Because you are the creator of some of the most well-known USA strains at the moment, the base of a lot of modern crosses and popular flavors. How did that? Yeah, bro. Respect the plan for sure. How did that journey went from growing weed in that medical situation to Sherbinski's as a brand with the strains?
I mean, it really started out with the genetics and like the opportunity to be able to grow and pop seeds and get clones from the Bay Area and Humboldt. At that time, when I had my first little grow set up in my garage and my few little spots, it was just sort of like reach out to your friend network and who's got cuts and who's got what. And at that time, there was, you know, fortunately some really amazing genetics that were kind of the downline lineage of a lot of these 80s and 90s genetics that like he was part of, and like around where like now these strain names are like legendary, right? Where it's like, remember this, and people know the years that they dropped and shit, right? So just leading up to having these genetics, being able to, and at that time there was no brands around cannabis, there was no identity, there was no articulation. It was lucky if really it was like a film canister. Something like this. Like this was the branding.
You can have that, by the way.
This is actually cool because this is. I just grabbed this by chance, and it's actually exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Film canisters was like the best. You know what I mean? You stuffed that shit, and then it was like cartoon character type of stickers, and it was very elementary.
Have you looked at it?
I haven't looked at this one, but yeah, I mean, look, this was what it was for like if there was anything. You're lucky if there was a sticker. You know what I mean? It was really just, you wouldn't even get bags. There was no bags. There was no packaging. It was like, so really, I just felt like it turned into, people used to call the genetics that I'd grow, that we'd put out, designer, and then that was a thing that we really got built up and we got going when there was no, these hippies weren't saying, oh, this weed's designer, bro. Like they were like, yeah, this is the gas and this is this, or whatever their terminology was. But then it evolved into, that's where the culture of the clothing and the music and everything, because the influence of what's cool. And at that time, I think it was the perfect like environment for something like this. And when I talked to the way when we designed it and built Sherbinski's, I said, hey, they're saying the weed's designer. It's the best weed in the world. That's what people are saying. And at that time, it was. And in a lot of ways, it still is. Like, and it's been built on a million ways. But it was like, what does the best weed in the world look like? And to me, it looked like this. You know what I mean? And we went through, when we designed and we went through all the shit, it was like orange continuously would just pop out. And then we looked at every type of print, every type of word, letter, and then the way our brain associates to that. Whether you learn like, nope, that type of lettering is street, that type of lettering is classic, and be like, what the fuck makes that street? And it could just be as the way a certain letter is curved, and all the brands that have used that type of lettering that people that are in the know
shit with
that aesthetic.
And so it's like, how do you take away that association? And it's like simplifying everything, right? Just clean, so simple, color, very simple print. Like it's not even about the print. And so I really love, I hold on and value like what we created with that, because to this day people gravitate towards that. And it could be grandma, it could be the young kids, it could be breeders that appreciate the real work that's behind it. But it was built off the genetics, man, and the passion and the love for the plant.
And then with the genetics, for the people that don't know, some of the strains that you created are Gelato,
Sunset Sherbert,
Sunset Sherbert, Sunset Sherbert's
in the proper lineage. In the proper lineage,
you know, that's definitely
Pink
one
Panties,
of my favorites.
Pollinade made Sherbert reversed, you know, made the Gelato. And so
Amazing.
Gelato, all of them were hits. Pink Panties not as much because at the time when I had that and we were growing it, we didn't have CO2 tanks. We didn't have anything to be able to get the bud to yield, and it was just a low yielder. So she got shelved for a bit, but Sherbert was a hit, still is. Sherbert's to this day. I've never been into extractions, but all the people I know that are heavy in the extractions, you pretty much take Sherbert and hit it to anything, and it's like gives you a whole new array of flavors and tones, and it doesn't stay in a certain box, which is awesome gift to the world. And then Gelato has just been each one from the 41 to the the side berry, all of them were people were able to find which ones they liked. Which ones work best with their varieties, and a ton of fucking breeding all over the world. And so I love it, man. I embrace it, and it's been.
I find it so funny that when the Gelato came out, like, or when it made its way over here, that's when the European community was starting to understand more about phenos. You know, they were like Gelato 33 and 41. What's that? How is it both Gelato? But are they still different, you know? And that's where they started to educate themselves.
I'm glad you said that. You brought that up because that's a good point. Because up until I hadn't been breeding up until that point. I've just been growing. Never really. I popped a few seeds, but I never like took it down the line. But with Gelato, everyone's like, "Yeah, pop the seeds and find the winner." And I'm like, "Okay, like I'm gonna find the best one." And then when I had that first room. With the first seeds of like the Gelato, and they were all numbered and all the numbers became famous, I was like, fuck, how am I supposed to pick one? Because this 41 is like super gassy and fat ass this and that. The acai berry is glistening dark purple, terpy as shit. I'm like, all right, well, these are the keepers. And then that's when the Gelato kind of came into effect. Like, well, what is like, and then I talk about ice cream shops from my childhood and stuff, but all of us have that certain ice cream shop or anywhere that we grew up on that was like we had our favorite flavors and we would go back every year and we have that kind of ingrained and it evokes that emotion, you know. That's that's the other thing that I always want to attach to the brand is if you don't have any type of way to evoke that, it's like what are you holding on to, what are you returning to other than the quality. So that's why I always try to through experience and whatever we do, try to create that like a treat, and attach that to the flower that we love.
That's dope. And when I look at your brand, for example, you take that and make more of a lifestyle thing out of it, which I also love. I mean, I love the variety of cannabis businesses, there's something for everybody. There's clean shit, there's lifestyle shit, that's something I really love. But for you, it also started with genetics, right? This whole journey. Can you talk a little bit about how that went for you and what your journey with the genetics has been?
So I mean, just starting early on, like in the 80s and stuff, and like popping like original, what to me was like the purest Kūsh I'd ever tried, which was basically going back to like the purple, like the original skunks, and it was like basically I was given some seeds that were from Afghanistan that somebody had brought over, and I'd cracked those. Those were some of like the first seeds that I'd grown in like the Mission District, which is an area I kind of grew up, and it was just like little short, squat, very pure indica plants, so it's like the indica before it kind of got, watered down or anything. So it was just like in its truest form, before things kind of got, basically a little more watered down. So it was interesting to see like so many strains back in the day that kind of ended up disappearing with time,
Royalty in the house.
Sarah, hey.
Let's go, Ben.
Sorry,
welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome, Ben.
Hello, good to see you too. Welcome.
Hi. Pleasure, man. Nice to meet you, brother.
It's nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Honor for me, to see that's what happened here. And like Jack, I wish you lived the day,
see this.
Because this is amazing.
Yep.
It is.
Right? We beat, the cat is out of the bag.
Yeah.
The impossible they can put it back in.
Yep.
So we're here, and now we are in the States also, Sēnsi US.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And you guys?
It's all opening up. It's been a long
beautiful.
time working towards this for you. You've done this for a long time. You've been at this for a long time. We've talked a lot about you in the podcast that we done prior to this. Obviously, we just talked with your good friend Soma as well last week.
Yes. Beautiful. I saw it.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about the journey you made and the sacrifices you had and you made for the plant. And how beautiful it is to see what it has come to nowadays, and the huge impact Sēnsi and you have had on the world of cannabis. And I'm dying to hear from your mouth how you experience like the changes that we're seeing in the world right now, Ben.
It is, the crazy thing is, when did I start? Nearly 50 years ago or what, no? And every time, after 10 years, we were fighting, and Jack, we become very close friends. And other people, it's amazing, so many, because they all came to the museum, right, in Amsterdam. We had a coffee shop that time.
Yeah.
And from one comes to the other. And then every time we think, oh, now it's going to happen. And it didn't happen. Oh, now it's going to happen. And it didn't happen. And it's the same with my hemp company, Hempflex,
Yeah.
Same with the museum, it took time. Every time we thought, now it's going to be the time, it's going to be legalized. No? And it didn't came.
We're still waiting for it in the Netherlands.
I remember after 15 years, Hempflex, we did well with Sēnsi Seed already. So all the money we make with Sēnsi Seed, we put in the hemp.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And then the same story. Oh, now it's going to come. Now it's going to... It didn't come. And the crazy thing is, now this is coming for the herb, but for the hemp also. It is amazing that we're doing very okay. We still don't make much money, Hemp is still but we made it. I don't lose money anymore. Because 25 years, 27 years we lost. We only put money in it, and now it's there. It's going to be in the Tesla. It's even going to be in, our fiber.
Wow.
And the fiber is now in the even Bugatti Veyron. It's crazy.
Your hemp fiber is in the Bugatti Veyron?
That insulation. We had an insulation factory in Germany. The insulation is amazing.
That's cool.
The foods are, and that is exactly what Jack and me and other people stood for. We believed in it and we knew it. And everybody say, hey, you guys, you smoke too much, But we smoked a lot. And maybe that's why we knew it. I think so,
Absolutely,
It makes us
believe that.
The power of the
clear-minded.
Yes.
It makes you see the things differently.
When I did my first greenhouse, we had only 15 plants or what. And we going blinking, and you tried it at home or what. You have your plant, you sit in front and you go closer and closer and you blink. And you think I'm crazy, but the plant opens, you go crazy.
Oh wow.
It's amazing, try it.
Wow.
So there's the spiritual, and now we know plants can talk, right? Scientifically it's proven.
Yeah, and it reacts to music and
they feel that you have a red jacket or you have a blue jacket. So
sentient beings now they're saying.
We're not crazy. We just more connected to the plant than my grandmother giving, or my mother, she giving the flowers every day water, and they flowered like anything, and that's where I got it from, I guess.
If the plants had a voice, what would they say to us, right?
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
Wow, depends on how you treat them, I think.
That's the relationship, though, right? That's the love they give back to us.
Absolutely.
That's something you've seen up close in the facility as well. You've always worked close to the plant. That's what I respect a lot about Sēnsi Seeds, is that, like, unlike a lot of other seed companies in the industry, you're not solely buying white label bulk seed somewhere and putting a different name on it. No, you've always been in touch with the plant and creating from the start with people that are passionate, and it all started a long time ago with strains like Jack Herer. that you put out a while back. We talked about the launch of it in the Cannabis Castle with Soma. And we showed some of the pictures. That's some crazy, great. I mean, I don't know if you've ever saw the images of that. That was amazing. Like the way that was. I have a feeling that we're slowly getting back to a situation that we can do those types of events again. If you look at things like this,
it would be nice.
Yeah, and talking about genetics, if we look at your catalog, there's a lot of classics in there. But what are some of your favorites apart from the Jack Herrera, which you obviously love a lot?
The Jack is really very nice. But also one of my favorites was always Northern Lights. And to be honest, it was not our own first breeding. It was from Greg McAllister from the US, who gave us the plant. Actually to Neville. I worked with Neville Shoemaker. He had the seed bank before, right? And then we partnered up and then we become the Sēnsi Seed Bank. So it is all the varieties, you know, it's like wine, you know? Yeah. If you have a different wine and you drink it, then you go for it. Yeah. And that is how we used to test the wheat. You know, we had it hanging there, maybe 5 varieties or 6, and then we just pick a few buds, smoke it, and then it took about 1 or 2 weeks, and then certainly you walk to the same thing. You know? And that is how you have to try it out at yourself, because there's many strains and there is many, but like I said, you know, I got this. The Bedrocan, that's my medical, and it's also from Jack originally, and it is still to me the best. I can smoke anything I like. I think if you put it in a contest, it wins. You know, you should try it.
The Jack done right is a beautiful plant and very versatile. You can use it any time of day, depending on the dosage. You will always have a great experience.
But you know, the problem is you just mentioned. Shakespeare said already, what's in the name, right? What is in the name? Yeah. Well, in the name of Jack Herrera is, of course, Jack, you know. But all the copy machines, everybody copy everything, you know. They cheat and they... So if people buy a Jack Herrera somewhere and later on say, oh, not so good, no. Yeah, well...
It's the same. Have the original.
They don't have the original, but they just give it a name, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's always have been a problem, and there's some beautiful people. Sam the Skunk Man, he make the skunk. We make varieties from the skunk again, but we still have the original skunk. So that is all. It's like that, you know. It's. I always wanted to be honest with this shit. And also when we win many cannabis cups, on a certain moment we win nearly all, you know, and then on a certain moment people start to pay money for it. Then it's
the bribes started happening.
Well, it is not. I couldn't do it. I didn't go along with it. No. But it's fun, you know. It's and still, you know, the herb is the herb. So if you smoke any kind of grass for the first time or a few times, the herb is beautiful.
It's always going to be pretty good.
It matters what you smoke, but it's also, it doesn't matter. It's still the herb. And, you know, but I think quality conquers all.
Absolutely.
So I'm very happy. I hear that Sēnsi US is going to sell you varieties also in this.
Absolutely. And that's also something that we can talk about a little bit while you're here, because I really am impressed with the fact that you took these guys like Smoke and Hagen with fat beans. You took these guys, genetics and companies, and said let's form a front and do some stuff together and conquer the world together. And that's something that I really enjoy seeing, because it's something that you don't really see in the cannabis industry a lot, where people actually want to work together to make a difference together. You know.
Well, it came also from Jack, you know, when the Jack Herrera came out, I talked with him. He got his book, you know, and I said, shall I name one of my seeds to you? You know, it's very nice. He smoked it. He said, yes, of course. So that's what we did. But then he went back to the States, and a couple of years later, another cup, he come again. He said, Ben, you know, they hold me on the street and they say, oh, your grass is the best. they didn't know his book. You know? But vice versa, it also happened, right?
Yeah.
That's the book. No,
you should try the grass.
And then we realize also, you know, of course, Ed Rosenthal told me, he said, probably 80% or more of what's growing in the US is from Sēnsi Seeds, because we were the first seed shop in the world, right? In Amsterdam.
I remember as a kid, you know, going through High Times magazines and, you know, in the late 80s and stuff like that, and seeing Sēnsi Seeds and being like, oh, you know, like, and that was like one of the iconic brands for years and years, you know, since my childhood in a way there. And then eventually in the 90s, even early 90s, like ordering some seeds from Sēnsi Seeds. And then, of course, I got like a notice from customs saying, oh, you know, don't try that again, basically at that time. But you know, now things have changed. Now you can order seeds and get them, you know, in the mail and stuff. But in the past, it was one, you know, Sēnsi Seeds was always been that iconic. You know, you guys have been pioneering, you know, that space, the genetic space, before really anyone else that was really doing it at that level, you know. So it's an honor to be with such a great group, you guys, and then such a great group of other breeders and people that have come together that I respect, and all be on the same, you know, pushing for the same, you know, for the same stuff and the culture and stuff, and it's amazing.
That's why it's also happened, because we had the museum, of course, in Amsterdam, and we have Sēnsi Seeds, and we have a small coffee shop, and so many people come to get seeds from us. So that's where all these people come from. Many of them, you know, all the famous, even the seed shops now in Canada and they used to work with us or work in my shop.
Yeah.
Right? But I think 7 or 8.
Building that community.
Yeah. And it's nice, you know, it's eat and let eat, but it's also about being straight, you know, that's for me always important.
Yeah, for me, Ben, you know, the opportunity to work with Sēnsi Seeds when I first sat down and talked to your team, and I hadn't had a chance to meet you, and just to hear the whole story, and really from really they went back to the beginning, you know, and it's an honor to be part of just the legacy that you built, and it says just the time that you put in, the fact that you're still here, part of this movement, it just says a lot about who you are, and it's groups like that I want to be part of. And contribute what I can, and it feels good, and I love the way that the family you built, and we all, I think, are here because of that. So
nice.
You know, and excited to just take the genetics and be able to mix in what we have, and now, like, the borders don't hold us back from the family that we are, you know, not to sound cliche, but it really is. It's a tight-knit group, and there's not a whole lot of us that's why people like Jack are legends, right? These people that had their hands, whether they were breeders or they helped create part of that culture, it's special and it resonates with all of us. And so I feel we're still in the middle of having fun, and now it's like, it's great that you're here to be able to experience all this, and, you know, around the world, and us be part of it. It's just literally, it's breathtaking. It's an honor walking through this crowd with the endless people smoking, smiling, and just, it's like, it's amazing. It really is. Whether it's cannabis or any event, it's the fact that people can come together and do this.
When I started, you know, my varieties were mainly from the east, now Afghanistan and around Pakistan, Valley. And I worked with Neville Shoemaker, and he had already some American strains. And he started to grow together with me and my son Alan, who has now an honorable doctorate in the university in Thailand. You know, he's giving lecture there sort of in universities about cannabis. And that was really amazing, you know, that you have this interaction with all these different people and different breeders. And of course, we made a lot of sacrifice. I don't know how many times they busted me and how many times I was in jail, but that was okay, because Holland was quite liberal and we didn't go too long, you know, like in America. But then I say always, even on the Cannabis Cup, you know, there's a drug war, and they want to fuck us, and we bombard the world with seeds. So it's beautiful. And then what's happening now, I love it, you know, and I don't have much feeling of competition or it. I like it. It's nice. It's just, you know, it's the more you know.
There's enough for everybody.
Look how many there's here.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine if you see the whole smoking Germany, all the football stadiums doing now?
Yeah.
They're not enough.
No.
So many. There would not be enough football stadiums in Europe, I think.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So there's so much, and that was already the case a long time ago, also in the US. A lot of smoke, from roots on. A lot of people smoke. And I feel sorry for all these people that went to jail, you know, and because sometimes a hard question for me was like, hey, Ben, you're doing so well and that, but how about the people getting busted? And I say, but it's not the seed, it's the fucking system. And I'm right. Jack was right, we are right.
Yeah.
They cannot say anything anymore about what is wrong. You know, it's a medicine, it is healthy for everybody. I dare to say I recommend people to smoke. I don't recommend people to drink. You know, fuck more or what, you know. Sex, okay, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Sex is good. Sex is good.
The drugs
Great
should
advisor.
be weed,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the herb.
That's a good combination. Some nice, good food.
Absolutely.
Life's good.
$4
Some wine.
All right. No, you
Don't
got
need
me.
any more.
You got me, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
and then what I mean is, Thailand is totally legal now.
Yeah.
Always still with a hustle, but same thing. The cat is out of the bag; they cannot put it back in.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful to see that how you contributed to this unstoppable movement just by spreading the seeds all over the world.
Exactly.
And that's something that we have to thank you for. I think. I mean, you are one of the people by doing that, and despite all the sacrifices that you had to make along the way, continue to do that to make this happen for us.
It did.
So many years later, finally, things
But,
like this.
You know who I'm thankful for?
Please tell us.
The plant. You know, when I discovered growing a plant and I smoked it, it was like, wow, you know. Like you had the connection.
Yeah.
And the spirit came, you know. Like Soma, I'm not so spiritual as Soma is. I love the man, it's so long already.
Yeah.
But, you know...
While you're speaking on that, I've always felt like if you want to do good for the world, you could send something so special to them in a tiny package, and what they make of that is their connection with that plant. And it's a whole world.
Yeah.
It can put people's kids through colleges. In some instances, it can put food on their table, all from that one tiny seed.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it does. And that's what I love about what you guys are doing, how we can reach the world, how we could do it and send that message.
We're not finished yet. Now we have to get the people out of jail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's still, and like in the US, there are still people sitting in jail for a couple of ounces or what, you know, for I don't know how many years. Shredded lives.
Yeah, that's important. That's kind of our part, is also to be the voice for people that don't have the voice right now, that are still unjustly in jail for like non-violent cannabis stuff, and it's unfair that people should be in jail now for where the state of affairs is now in the world with cannabis and everything, and basically it being liberated and legalized and all this stuff. So it is important for us to like still speak up for people that, you know, don't
Shout
have
out
the
to the
voice.
Last Prisoner Project.
Yeah, you know, Last Prisoner Project, Freedom Grow, Last Prisoner Project, people like that that are, you know, helping bring some of this, you know, some of the stories in cases to light and helping people get out, you know. So wherever, you know, definitely want to help wherever I can in that, you know, departments.
Well, the ignorance goes away.
Yeah.
You know, the museum in Amsterdam is already 35 years.
Wow.
So, and the museum in Barcelona is about 12 years now.
Yeah.
And the information what we gave, it was always nice. And I think you guys also, you go inside, and Barcelona is really
beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful
but
place.
Anybody go inside, you see something new, something you didn't know. And there's so much more, you know, and we don't have enough space to show everything.
Yeah.
But that was my passion, to collect all the things, you know.
I actually had the honor of seeing a little bit, opening some of those drawers in your collection, and I have to say, I was blown away. And also the diversity at each tray was from books to pipes to the largest collection. This man, largest collection of cannabis and hemp and tools and everything you can imagine. If that has to do with hemp or cannabis, this thing.
We actually did a little tour of the Cannabis and Hemp Museum in Barcelona last year during Spannabis. I will put a link in the description if you want to see that. Haven't seen that yet. I'll put a link in the description. In the description, you can see all the crazy stuff made from hemp, the crazy stuff made from cannabis flower. It's got everything from clothes to ship things to. I mean,
Can I ask you, when did you become a collector? When did the fire start on the collection? Can we talk a little bit about that? I'm really intrigued.
Great question, man. Well, thanks for taking
What started that whole thing? Because
my father was a collector, but he was a collector of junk, all kind of
a hoarder,
stepstone and so. How do you call it? You got a series also in America.
Yeah, a hoarder. Yeah,
and so he was a collector, and then I started to collect quite early, but then the museum came, you know, and some people have some collection for the museum. I had also some, and it's there. And if you ask me where my money went, you know, it's there. And the other thing is in hemp. You don't believe it. People cannot imagine it. That's why I never have problems with the tax people or police anymore. Because they check me so many times, and what the fuck this guy doing?
Can I ask you?
He made a few million and he put it in the bloody hemp and lose it there. You know? And
what's your vision with that one day? Like, because there's so many. No, with your collection. I'm just. What's your vision?
Well, if it did its purpose, it did its purpose. You know, to give the people information,
educate people, and
educated. And if everybody's educated, maybe it's gone. But you can also go to an old shipyard museum. Because it wasn't there, right? It's not. Now more people starting a museum. Nice. So it's a museum, you know. And
do you switch out to things that people can see from the collection?
We switch over exhibitions, you know.
Got it.
Like the tattoo exhibition or the Japanese.
The Japanese thing
that
recently.
We still have to go into Barcelona. And sometimes we don't do it enough, but sometimes we change especially the old paintings. You know, I got beautiful art masterpieces of genre paintings. That is the painting you see in 1560, a coffee shop. You know, like a coffee shop, people are smoking and stoned, and you see the grass on the table with the seeds.
Wow.
But it is 1560, you know. But if you see the faces. Look like you know? When you're stoned, you know. They look like us.
Red eyes.
Exactly, because they smoked a lot of hemp. Because they brought tobacco, and the tobacco was bloody expensive. But we grew hemp for and that was the Indian hemp also, no? So they smoked it, they mixed it like we do still in Holland. We mix tobacco with grass or hash. They did that 500 years ago already, you know. But then the grass was really, but now is the tobacco.
They used to dilute tobacco with weed because tobacco was too expensive.
That's interesting.
Wow, how that has changed.
Crazy. Things change. Yeah,
amazing. And maybe while you're here and we're talking to one of the legends and one of the most successful people in cannabis worldwide with different beautiful companies and educating people on the different uses of cannabis for many years. For people who want to get into the industry and want to do something, want to become like one of you guys, maybe become one of me, what would you advise them?
Well, follow your heart, follow your passion. I remember we had the first cannabis cup. And there were 3-4 items, you know. A guy with a few pipes, I don't even remember exactly. But there was nearly nothing. But look around now, you know. Look at a hemp expo. You see so many products, so many things. And I love to see always young entrepreneurs. That doesn't matter, I remember we had in Holland one guy, he started with filter tips. Bob Warren, you know, he just had a filter. That's the only thing on that moment he had. From the filter tips, he started a magazine. So from a magazine, he started all kind of things, you know. He sold hash and grass also, actually. But, you know,
who doesn't?
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Then do your thing, you know. And as long as you believe in it and you're standing behind, you don't hurt people or you don't make people sick or that's most important.
Passion and good intentions.
You also got people that sell real bullshit and what is dangerous for people's health, and you never should do that.
Yeah.
Or anything dangerous, you should not do.
Yeah.
But anything that is helpful, help. It's nice.
True enough.
Beautiful advice.
So go for it. What's your plan? What are you going to do? Selling seeds?
No, I'm not going to sell seeds myself. I would like to have my own cultivar one day. I mean, my name is Uncle Kūsh, so to have Uncle's Kūsh would be something very logical in the timeline one day, you know. But
He's putting it out there, ladies and gentlemen. All right, message received.
I'll call the CEO in a while. We'll talk about that. You know, we'll see.
Well, it sounds nice. Nice name, isn't it?
Right, Uncle's Kūsh.
Absolutely.
It's got a nice ring to it.
Who knows?
I think so.
Who knows?
Well, I like to just acknowledge your contributions and how you kind of shepherded and the part you played in this culture and the larger scheme of everything and where we are today with everything. And I know each one of us that has had a hand in the culture and everything and moving it forward, you know, have seen all these changes from, Sherbinski when he started at that point and the advancements he made and the contributions he's made, and myself and what I did in my time and watching the stuff I made, and then you who go back even further and you being able to watch this timeline of where you started with it and where it is today. It's just mind-blowing, and I just like to say thank you and appreciate everything you've done. It's amazing,
Big respect, man.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Think about Sēnsi Seeds US. They're coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
We are there. And
Sēnsi
come to the
worldwide.
museums,
Yeah.
It's nice.
We still have to give away some tickets for the museum.
You should.
Yeah. We need more tickets for the museum.
Eat hemp, Use hemp.
Use hemp,
I don't know if
Hemp
you do that
clothing.
anymore.
People start.
I always believed too when I first started in the power of the power of hemp, and I believed it could change the world and had the potential to do that. As a fabric, as a fiber, as a fuel, as a food, as a medicine. It really is truly that plan, and it's nice that it's coming to light and people are starting to recognize and realize that, and it's giving. People are finally, some of these governments are finally giving it a chance to do what it's able to do and really, live, do really shine,
In that sense, I can say, buy Jack Harris' book, Emperor's Wears No Clothes. Because
Amazing book.
Right? That is one of the things, when he was writing it, I knew him already, and also the German guy, Hans-Joachim Beer, they collected a lot of information, and I collected stuff, So that was an exchange of all the kind of inspirations. I can name so many very nice people, but I'm sorry that I forgot some, but they are all there and part of it, and that's the bond we got, the friendship we got, and the passion we got, and that is what makes us sit here, I think.
Yeah.
And we like to smoke.
That's the most important thing.
It builds the culture. It holds like the glue, like I was saying a little earlier. It is the glue to culture in a lot of ways, and connects so many different people. And it's interesting. It really is a conduit for change and everything.
I wonder what the Germans will think now.
Yeah.
They're gonna see in the news, so many people. What they gonna think? Oh la la, oh scheiße.
I think a lot of them are going to think, maybe I should try to smoke a joint. These people look happy.
That's the idea.
These people look happier than I do, Yeah.
Or they're going to think, that looks like one hell of a party.
Yeah, right.
But the problem was yesterday, there came quite some ambulances, how you call it?
Yeah, 20 ambulances because of synthetic cannabinoids, mushrooms, and LSD, and all kinds of crazy things.
That's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I hope they get that information. because it's.
They put out a notice that they weren't going to take any shit today.
If one ambulance comes for like drug-related case, then they're going to shut down the whole thing. They said. I mean, but they could.
I mean, they definitely flexed a little, like, don't, you know, but that's a problem.
That's Germans too. They want to, like, show you they got power, you know.
So just for the record, anybody next year thinking about coming with us, don't come.
Well, you know, the synthetic stuff, like, you know, it's like the synthetics can always has always been the issue. Like you say, just keeping it natural and simple, you know.
Those synthetics are a product of prohibition, you know. If cannabis would be more available and people would be allowed to grow their own freaking plants in their own back garden without any hassle or bothering anybody, I mean, then all that shit wouldn't even be necessary. Who would start thinking about HHC vapes and fucking THCP if you could grow a freaking plant and smoke
it? It's a long rabbit hole, right? To get to that.
Oh, how crazy is that? Which turns do you have to take to get to that, you know?
I'm thinking about Jack, you know, one of his saying was on stage, he say, nobody ever died of grass, you know. Only you die if the police chase you and shoot you and something like that. And that was really, the danger was getting busted. Nothing wrong. You cannot die. Impossible to die or to even get very sick from hemp. I never hear of it. And if you get stoned, you pass out, you wake up, okay. But you drink a bottle of whiskey, you're not okay when you wake up.
You're definitely going to feel that.
And then all the synthetics, it's, ooh, man.
Yeah, terrible stuff.
We're on one line, that's for sure.
Yeah, we all agree on the same
that's
thing.
good, and that's also, I think, the importance of keeping the message of the plant and the importance of, like, what the real original message is, you know, that just, like, what the culture was all about originally, you know. Of course, there's, you know, everybody wants to make money and all this stuff going on, but the important message of the plant, and which is, you know, obviously keeping it natural and healthy and all these other things, and you know, using it as a, you know, respectably, and using it for change, and using it to evoke spirit or as a medicine, or, you know, just like respecting the plant and stuff like that, and not forgetting the original message of this culture. Ultimately, you know, some of this.
I just remind that I can tell the public, you know, you guys, maybe you see the book already, the Weed of Wonder.
Yes.
We have a book from the museum, and hemp flags and everything is in there. It's interesting to see all the different aspects. I mean, Jack Harris' book is amazing, but what we show in the museum and the backgrounds of it is also nice. I hope you got one already or not?
I definitely got one.
Okay, all right. So we'll get one at home as well.
Yeah, we're gonna give away a book too. Let's you get a book. And you get a. Everybody got a book.
Well, they're quite
sorry.
But there's that saying too,
big heavy books for sure.
There's that saying that, you know, people should wake up and smell the roses, but I think we also, now it's like we need to start listening to the plants, right? Absolutely. And we talked about that relationship with the plant, but I think there is and even consciously, to speak to what you're saying about people are taking a lot of psychedelics, a lot of plant medicine, and in those realms, those worlds where they, you know, they're taught, and like these plants really are speaking to them, and maybe not everybody chooses in their life to, you know, experiment with these plant medicines, but those that actually have can speak that these things are actually true, and plants are actually live entities, and they don't speak, but they're intelligent, and if you really look at plants and nature, they're giving so much more to us than we do to them. You know, and I just try to hold on to that, and like that, it does a lot for my mental health. It's like, wow, you know, these trees are giving me, you know, because of this, I can breathe in this atmosphere, and the plants that grow out that I eat, you know, that actually give me nutrients, reminds me of what we need to do to keep this world sustainable. For those of you that aren't aware, the soil is becoming completely depleted of all its nutrients, and it's something that we
hemp is one of those
have to start focusing on.
Helps build soil,
and we should keep the poop in the loop.
And just like plants, if you don't give the nutrients, if we don't have the nutrients in what we're eating, like plants, if we can't give them, then we're going to have poor health. It's going to affect us like for generations to come. So that's something that I think, you know, even your organization, you've shined a lot of light on that, and so that's why I like to stand not just individually for what we all believe in, but together I think we can really raise awareness for a lot of these things.
Exactly, because you know, you have a connection with the plant, But because we have the connection with the plant, we have connection.
Yeah.
So you connect to the right people. I feel.
This is what you've been doing for decades, and that's why it's nice to be part of that.
I did. Yeah.
You speak of people like Jack that were, you shared that passion and that obviously that passion, that energy and vision.
Well, I live in Malaysia now, and my son lives in Thailand already 20 years. He's married and kids there. He's doing the lectures now in the museum, in the universities. He got a doctoral, honorable doctorate. And even now in Malaysia, I talked already to 2 ministers and some officials. They're also looking at, and Malaysia is still a country where if you have over 300 grams, you could have the death penalty. It doesn't happen. People are scared of Malaysia, but absolutely, it's more free than Holland or Germany, for my feeling.
Can you smoke in Malaysia? Do you smoke in Malaysia?
I got my medical, yeah.
Yeah,
you got your medical and you got your papers from the embassy and everything. Then it's a medicine. Official. Don't forget, it is a real official medicine.
Absolutely.
So I can travel nearly all over the world, but you need your paperwork.
Yeah.
And I've been paying so long already, I'm sorry. When I'm have to laugh is because somebody said, you have so many patients, medical patients in America, right? 500,000, 1 million now.
Yeah.
And somebody said, if they make it legal, they're going to be a medical wonder that they're all healed.
Yeah.
When it's legal, it's healed.
So many problems would go away. Right?
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful note to end this very special podcast with. I want to thank both you guys for starting us off today with this very special episode. And you, Ben, as a legend. I'm very grateful for everything you did and your support to the HighCloud podcast this season. We're very honored to have you as one of our partners this season. So thanks for that as well, in person this time. And thank you all for watching. Thank you, phēnotypes, Mascota. Much love. This is Uncle Kūsh. Until the next episode. Bye, guys. Thanks, man. Amazing. It was a beautiful conversation. Thank you.